Hello, BookTube. This is it. Bookcase number 17. Um, Science fiction, fantasy, horror. This is pretty much the end of the bookcases. I do have a big bookcase downstairs for cookbooks, but I think it'd be probably less than popular to do a bookshelf tour there. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But anyhow, this is considered the last of the bookcases. Um, it's a strange day, very gray outside. We've had tons of snow this year, tons of really, really freezing cold weather. But today the temperature's hovering right at around 31 Fahrenheit. So just at that crossover point for freezing and slush and just usually a mess. On top of it, it's raining and it's supposed to rain all day. So I went out this morning to bring the scrape off my wife's car. It was about, let's say, a good quarter inch of clear ice. It was hard to see that it was ice over everything. Then the same with my car, and then trying to get up our little hill is always a bit of a problem anyway. But we got there. Everybody's safe, safe and sound. And then we'll hope it warms up just enough so that it's mostly rain today and won't have much problems getting the kids and getting them home safe. But enough of that, and let's get to the book. I have mentioned earlier that Bookcase 17 is primarily science fiction, fantasy, and horror. There's some YA stuff in it, stuck in it. There's some graphic novels stuck in it. But the top of the bookcase is all Star Trek. So that's what we're going to start with today. And I'm a great lover of the original series, but I enjoy any of the Star Treks. I have not watched the new series. We just got a PS4 for my wife, and my understanding is we have the CBS All Access streaming on that. So I'll go down and give the new series a shot. I'm very excited about it. I saw the first episode because they put it out there on regular television. So while we have the streaming service, I'll see how good it is. Maybe I'll report back to you. So the first book I have is Star Trek Lives, Personal Notes and Anecdotes by Jacqueline Lichtenberg, Sandra Marshak, and Joan Winston. It's what the creators of Star Trek are doing now, their goals and achievements since Star Trek, and their plans for Star Trek's return. So for a very long time there, we couldn't imagine there being movies. There was fan fiction. There was not even a lot of the novelizations or anything like that going on. And this is a Bantam book, and it's from 1975. But what's interesting here, this is what they're showing for other Star Trek books. So you have Spock Must Die, which we have here, and I'll show you. And then the first 11 of the Star Trek novelizations by they're not really novelizations. I don't even know what you'd call them. He just collected the screenplays, rewrote them, and we put a few of them in each of these books, which I'll show you. So this was a collection of articles, basically, and stories about Star Trek, and it was a lifeline. We didn't have much else. And then on a similar note, I mentioned earlier one of my favorite Star Trek episodes was The Trouble with Tribbles. And it was written by a young man named David Gerald. And this also is a Ballantine book. And did I say? Yeah, that was a Bantam. This is a Ballantine. This is The World of Star Trek. David Gerald, the show the network could not kill. And you'll see the set there with the Enterprise. And this came out in 1973, and mine's the sixth printing of 75. And here's some other books by David Gerald. That's sort of interesting. The Flying Sorcerers with Larry Niven, which I didn't even know about. Protostars, he was an editor. Space Skimmer, With a Finger in My Eye, which I is the letter I. Short story collection. When Harley Was One, The Trouble with Tribbles in the World of Star Trek. So, this thing is loaded with images. And again, this was sort of our lifeline. And then there's a second section here. And you probably get an idea how thick the photos sections are. And then I used to have all of these. And I'm going to start collecting them again. In the moves over the years, I've lost them. And later on, you'll see I have a hardbound book that has many of the best collected in it. But for right now, I only have James Blish adaptations of the screenplays. And this is Star Trek IX, 6 thrilling tales from the award-winning television series created by Gene Roddenberry. So these are getting harder to find. I can still do it for a reasonable price. I paid 50 cents for this, but it's written in pencil on the inside. I need to do it before they're impossible to find. So this one has The Return to Tomorrow, The Ultimate Computer, That Which Survives, Obsession, The Return of the Archons, and The Immunity Syndrome. And then I have number 10 of the Blish adaptations. And this one, I paid 50 cents for this too. All right, I must have gotten them both at the same time. And this one is from the 6th printing. It's from July of 75. It says The Alternative Factor, The Empath, Galileo 7, Is There in Truth No Beauty, A Private Little War, and The Omega Glory. And then moving on to a series that I have a little more of. After Star Trek went off the air, there was Star Trek, an animated series. And I'm not sure the animation holds up well now. I'm fine with it. But the stories I actually thought were pretty good and were in the tradition of Star Trek. So, and these came out in log books, and they're by Alan Dean Foster, a writer who I really enjoy, and many of you will recognize from other booktube channels. So there's Star Trek Log 1. Look at that painting on the cover there. This is Beyond the Farthest Star, Yesteryear, and One of Our Planets is Missing, which was excellent. And these came out, the first one here is from, this is from the first printing in June of 74. Then we have Log 2, again, Alan Dean Foster. I really enjoy these covers. And this one is The Survivor, The Lorelei Signal, The Infinite Vulcan. Log 3. This one has Once Upon a Planet, Mudd's Passion. Harry Mudd returns here. And The Magics of Megas 2. I have 2 copies of that. Okay. I have 2 sons, so I'm trying to collect things for them. They probably will have no interest. So Log 4. Look at that cover. And that's the Terridan Incident, the Time Trap, more tribbles, more troubles. Get a kick out of that. And then here is Log 5. It's the Ambergris Element, the Pirates of Orion, or Orion, excuse me, and Jihad. Log 6, which is Albatross, the Practical Joker, and How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth. Log 7. Um, the counterclock incident. Let's see if that's the only one in here. It is. Wow. Longer one. I remember that. Log 8. And this is Eye of the Beholder. And so you can see these are getting longer. Of course, these are all Ballantine books, and this is 76, so they're all coming out within a couple years of each other. So that's all the logs I have. I think there's one or two more, and I'll grab them. And I'm trying to double this set up. Again, probably not for much reason, but then we get to one of the early novelizations. This is a Star Trek novel, Spock Must Die, by James Blish, and an exciting new story of interplanetary adventure, inspired by the characters Gene Roddenberry created for the famous television series. So this is Bantam Pathfinders editions, Toronto, New York, and London. This is the 10th printing of 1972. And Captain Kirk and the crew of the Starship Enterprise find themselves in the middle of an undeclared war waged by the Klingon Empire. The Organians should be consulted about the war, but their entire planet has disappeared or been destroyed. Mr. Spock entered the transporter chamber. His image would be flashed to Organia by the huge machines faster than light tachyons. But the experiment failed. Suddenly there were two Mr. Spocks. One of them had to be destroyed. But which one? Da, 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 da. Then, moving right on with Mr. Spock, we have Vulcan by Kathleen Sky, with an introduction by David Gerald, author of The Trouble with Tribbles. And there he is. I'm going to lose all my books here. Excuse me for a second. That's the problem with this big old poofy chair. Every time I move, everything wants to go flying. Spock, beamed down to a murderous planet in a dangerously shifting universe. A universe where a series of freak ion storms has changed the boundaries of space. Where Arachne 4, inhabited by a strange race, may be lost forever to the Federation. Where Spock is sent on a death-defying assignment into a war of antitypes, along with a brilliant, beautiful, bigoted scientist who hates Vulcans. It's not very nice. Then we have a novelization by David Gerald, The Galactic Whirlpool, an original Star Trek adventure. And again, these are the Bantam books. This is the 4th printing of 1984. So you can see there's more of these Bantam Star Trek titles by now. And of course, there's hundreds now, or pocketbooks. And then this has an introduction. Let's see. It's by D.C. Fontana, the famous scriptwriter for Star Trek. This was from the log of Chief Medical Officer Leonard McCoy. The young woman brought back aboard the Enterprise by Lieutenant Riley's contact team is responding well to treatment. Physically, there's no question she's going to be fine. I'm more worried about the culture shock, the mental strain imposed by the sudden discovery that the world she's grown up thinking of as the be-all and end-all of the universe is nothing more than a spaceship. Then we have one of these movies, novelizations. And this one's by Vonda McIntyre, based on a screenplay by Harv Bennett. I like Vonda McIntyre. You'll see we have more of her stuff. And this is Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. And this was it's a pocket books, and it is 1984. And yeah, this is from June, first one. Here's a series of, this is Trek to Mad World, an original Star Trek. This is a Bantam book by Stephen Golden. Look at Chekhov's expression on his face. Oh, look at everybody's expression. It's a strange painting. This again has an introduction by David Gerald. Star Trek novel by Stephen Golden, Trek to Mad World. And this is the third printing of December of '84. And I am faced with one of the most difficult decisions of my career. 3 days ago, the Enterprise was ordered to proceed at maximum warp to Epsilon Delta 4, where 700 colonists are slowly dying of radiation poisoning. Our journey there was interrupted with Enowil, an eccentric being of unbelievable power, seized control of the ship, as well as one Klingon and one Romulan star cruiser. Offering anything in his power to give as a reward, he has asked all of us for help in solving what he refers to as a private matter. That's sort of cool. Then we have The Starless World by Gordon Eklund, Nebula award-winning author. And this is, again, a Bantam Books. Pretty neat cover. This came out in the fourth printing, November of '84. Originally came out in '78. And this Captain's Log. I won't give you the start date. While investigating rumors of renewed activity by the Klingon Empire within the Galactic Core, the Enterprise made contact with a shuttlecraft from the USS Rickover, a starship presumed lost with all hands over 20 years ago. Then we have another Star Trek original. This is Joe Haldeman, a big name in science fiction, Hugo Nebula Award winner. This is World Without End, again a Bantam book. And this is a recording by Science Officer Spock. The Enterprise is currently in orbit around an alien starship, actually an artificial planetoid approximately 217,352 kilometers in diameter of unknown origin, aboard which Captain Kirk and a landing party of 4 are stranded. They are currently detained in a prison cell awaiting interrogation. Okay, there you go. Then another one by Joe Haldeman is Planet of Judgment. Looks like I paid 50 cents for all these. They say 50 cents in pencil on the inside. This is the fourth printing in June 1984. On a routine diplomatic mission to Starfleet Academy, our sensors detected the presence of a rogue planet in space, orbited by a sun no larger than a pea, a circumstance impossible to explain by any known scientific law. Okay. Let me grab a quick drink of this. Not quite as hot as it should be anymore. Then we have M.S. Murdoch's novel, Star Trek, Web of Romulans. And these are is a pocketbook. It's pocketbook Star Trek number 10. And it came out in, this is the 9th printing. The first printing was in '83. So you'll see here the list of Star Trek novels has grown since some of the first ones I've shown you. And here's well, let's do these by the series. I'm going to be wearing these. Star Trek, The Starship Trap, a new novel by Mel Gilden. This is number 64. You see, he's got the number up there. Try to keep out the glare. And this came out in Pocketbooks, 1993. This is the first printing. So here they'll have Star Trek the Original Series on one side, and on the next you have Star Trek the Next Generation, and under it one Star Trek Deep Space Nine listed. So here's the original series novelizations, and here's Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine is the single on the bottom. Gives you an idea where these are falling on the timeline, the publishing timeline, not the series timeline. This is another Next Generation. There's a Voyager. Let's see. Okay, here's Star Trek number 77, Twilight's End by Jerry Olson. And now, the same thing. Star Trek books on one side, original series. Next Generation books, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager on the opposite side. So Voyager's down here. Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, original series. So you can see how the world of the novels, this is pocketbooks, of course, and it's from 1996. So you can see how the everything's evolving here. Then this is one of my favorites, and I mentioned Vonda McIntyre before. This is Star Trek Enterprise, The First Adventure by Vonda McIntyre. Really enjoyed this. I was so excited when this came out. This was Pocket Books, New York. Mine here is the 10th printing, but the first one was in '86. He was the youngest man to captain a starship in Federation history. His crew included an untried first officer and a maverick ship surgeon. In years to come, the voyages of Captain James T. Kirk and the USS Enterprise would become legend. But before their historic 5-year mission began, before the crew meshed into the superb unit that would journey across the galaxy, before the legend took shape, there was a mission that brought them together for the first time. And that's the story of it. I have got strategic problems here with, I'll just knock that out. Knock over a computer box instead of a book. These are Deep Space Nine. These are Next Generation, Voyager. Okay, here we go. And then we have Star Trek number 74. And this is The Fearful Summons by Denny Martin Flynn. Sulu and Kirk on the cover. Pocket Books. And it was June of '95. Captain Sulu of the USS Excelsior and his crew are kidnapped. When Federation conducted negotiations come to a standstill, Captain James Kirk and the former officers of the USS Enterprise reunite to rescue their old comrade. So then, let's do this like this. We'll go with this one here. Star Trek Stargazer maker, Michael Jan Friedman. You see Picard in there. This is Pocket Books, based upon Star Trek The Next Generation, created by Gene Roddenberry. This came out in 2004. So Ensign Andreas Nicholas, heartsick over the loss of his mirror universe lover, has resigned his post on Jean-Luc Picard's starship, the Stargazer, to seek a home on the freighter Ichtogny. All he wants of his new life is a chance to forget his troubles, and that's what he gets, until the Ichtogny is taken over by a monstrous alien with unbelievable powers and a disdain for all forms of life. Those are the worst kind of aliens. Then we have, for the Next Generation, let's do those. We have Grounded, Star Trek The Next Generation, number 25. And it's by David Bishop. And this came out in Pocket Books, of course, '93. While answering a distress call from a scientific station in a remote part of the galaxy, the USS Enterprise becomes infected with a mysterious alien life form, which feeds on and transforms inorganic materials. Then we have Star Trek The Next Generation Unification. It's a pretty interesting cover there. This video's going a long time. Let's see. I'll speed it up. It's a novel by Jerry Taylor based on a 2-part television episode, story by Rick Berman and Michael Piller. Part 1 teleplay is Jerry Taylor, Part 2 teleplay, Michael Piller. And this came out in '91. We'll move along a little bit here since I'm taking so long. Then Star Trek The Next Generation number 27, Guises of the Mind. This came out, it's by Rebecca Neeson, and it came out in '93. And then I have these two, which I haven't read because I got to find 2 more. This is Book 2 and Book 4. They're by Peter David. They're New Frontier Concepts by John J. Ordiver and Peter David. And it's somebody named Captain Calhoun. So I have not read these. When did they come out? I am pretty interested in finding the other two. I'd like to read these. 97. Then I have Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Warped by K.W. Jeter. This came out in 96. Political tensions on Bajor are once again on the rise, and the various factions may soon come to open conflict. In addition, a series of murders has shaken everyone on board the station. While Security Chief Odo investigates the murders, Commander Sisko finds himself butting up against a new religious faction that plans to take over Bajor and force the Federation to leave Deep Space Nine. And then the final two here, and moving along, I know this went on a little longer than I intended, are the Voyager novels. So Star Trek Voyager number 6, The Murdered Son by Christy Golden. And I just read this one recently. I really, really liked it. More than I thought I would. I haven't really read the Voyager novels. So this is Pocket Books, 96. And this ended up being really good. So I've grabbed another one here that I haven't got to, which is number 8, called Cyber Song. And this one is by S.N. Lewitt, and I have not read it. So this one I'm looking forward to. Now, the novelizations can be uneven in quality. I like them. They're good escape for me. So that ends up the first shelf of Bookcase 17. A couple shelves later, we'll have a lot more of the Star Trek novels, but they'll be in hardback. So thank you for your patience, and thank you, BookTube.